from the dead. May God bless today's scripture reading. A brilliant magician was performing on a ship, and he would perform night after night after night. But every time that he would perform a trick, the captain's parrot, who would be at the dinner table with him, would always say, "It's a trick. He's a phony. It's not real." Time and time again, trick after trick, days after days on this cruise. And then one night, while the magician was performing, there was a terrible storm. It came out of nowhere, and it sunk the ship right in the middle of the act. Well, the magician made his way to a lifeboat, and lo and behold, who do you think was there? The parrot. And the parrot and the magician just stared at each other. They sat there and stared at each other and stared at each other for a couple of days. Finally, the parrot looked straight into the magician's eye and says, "Okay, I give up. What'd you do with the ship?" The parrot didn't quite comprehend what was going on, did he? You ever have those moments where you just don't really know what's going on? You have a problem comprehending where life is and what's going on in life? Why is this happening? What's going on around me? I know I've had several of those. In today's scripture, Jesus is taking Peter, James, and John up to the mountaintop, to a mountaintop. And things get a little crazy up there, don't they? Just from the description that we read here, things start happening. And I'm not sure the disciples really figured out what was going on. And I know Peter was a little confused. He starts babbling about building shelters, and for years scholars have tried to figure out exactly why he was bringing this up or what he was talking about. Why, here's Jesus talking to Moses and Elijah. And I always wondered, and I got to bring this up, but I always wondered this, how did they know it was Moses and Elijah? I mean, were they wearing name tags? I'm assuming that Jesus mentioned that's who it was. I don't know, because it would just confuse the time. But anyway, I'm getting distracted here. I'm going off on a bunny trail, I'm sorry. But he's babbling, right? He's like, if I build shelters, and people, they try to figure out what he's talking about. Maybe he really just wanted to build them a shelter, so they have a place to sleep, I don't know. But one of the things, like, if he had done that in Middle Eastern, from my understanding, Middle Eastern hospitality, then the guests would have been required to stay until the host told them it was okay to leave. Maybe that was after. Maybe he was just trying to what? Save the moment, right? He wanted to live in the moment, maybe. Right? You ever wanted to live in the moment? You ever had one of those moments you just wish would never stop? Where you're on top of the world, so we can't get any better of this. It's like a glazed donut. No. Cream filled. No. Anyway, it's that top of the world moment, right? You don't want it to end. And most of us have been there. Something good's happened in our life. Has anybody ever had anything good, really good happen in your life? Okay, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, guess what? There's some good stuff going to happen to you at some point in your life, and you're going to know what I'm talking about when that happens. But there is those moments in life, and you just like, and those are what I call mountaintop moments. And that's where we find the disciples with Jesus today. But the thing is I'm not really sure if Peter really comprehended what was going on. This whole thing that was happening to them. They're in the middle of on top of this mountain, and all of a sudden Jesus' face starts shining. They say, bright as the sun, his clothes turn white, brighter than bright. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're like, what? They're not really knowing what's going on. They're trying to figure it out. And that's what I call a mountaintop experience. And like I said, I think most of us have had mountaintop experiences. And what do you do with those things when you have them? Well, let me ask you a different question. For those of you who've had those mountaintop experiences, because some of you haven't, you said you didn't have, you never had that experience. But some of you who've had those mountaintop experiences, have you ever had valley experiences as well?
They come right after the mountaintop.
They seem to come right after the mountaintop, don't they? Because if you're on the top, there's only one way to go. Guess where that's at? Down into the valley, right? So what happens with those mountaintop experiences? And for those of you who don't know what I call like a mountaintop experience, I mean, there are those moments in time that change us, right? Regardless of where you were before you had that moment, you're never the same after you've had that moment. And those can happen in a lot of different ways. There's mountaintop experiences and there's valley experiences. You know, those forever changing moments occur both in the valley and on the mountaintop, don't they? Right? There's some good, like the birth of your child. I mean, you know, when you give birth, you get that your first child's born, or your second, 3, 12, whatever number of child, but there's something that's just joyous, that you just feel like, wow, I didn't know I could feel so much love, that somebody I didn't even know 30 seconds ago. But you know, it's right there. You just feel like you're on top of the world, right? It's just, I mean, you're planning the cigars you're going to hand out, you know, all that good stuff. That's a mountaintop experience, right? We lose somebody we care about. Well, that's a valley experience, right? That's a sad moment. It's kind of just the opposite of welcoming your child to the world, right? 9/11, that's a bad moment, right? Plane crashes in the tower, kills 3,000. That's not a good moment. But it's all those moments that I mentioned that changed you, didn't they? You're not the same as you were before those moments happened, are you? Right? Would you agree with that? Sure. And that's what I call mountaintop experiences. Sometimes they happen in the valley. Because sometimes you're changed in the valley as well, right? That bad things happen. But one thing, whether it happens in the valley or on the mountain, one thing that I found is you're never ready for it. You know, you wait 9 months to have a baby. If everything goes right, you wait 9 months, but nothing prepares you for that moment, does it, moms? Does it, dads? No, it doesn't. Because what happens is, I mean, you've been waiting 9 months, you've anticipated 9 months, but nothing prepares you for that moment, does it? You can know someone's going to pass. It can be inevitable or even highly probable, but you're never prepared for that moment. My dad, you know, I shared with you last week, my dad died at 48. He was in the middle of it. He was in his 3rd bypass surgery for his heart. And he didn't come out. And we knew going into that surgery that the chances were not good for him to come out because he had died 3 times on the table the surgery before. But we always felt like he was such a fighter that he'd come out. He's tough. That guy was tough. He was going to make it. But no matter where you are, you're not prepared for that. When he didn't come out, we weren't prepared for that. We didn't have a plan for that, right? And it was one of those moments that changes who you are forever, right? And we all experience that. And if you haven't experienced death of someone close, you'll understand when you get there, what I'm talking about. Because even though we can say, well, they were a Christian and they're on the other side, they're in a better place, that's true, but your life has been changed, what? Forever. There'll always be a void where they were. Correct? Those of you who experience death, you know what I'm saying, right? No one can replace that person. Right? And what they meant to your life. It's a life-changing experience. And that's what the disciples were experiencing today. It was one of those life-changing, once-in-a-lifetime moments. Didn't happen anywhere else, to anyone else. It was their moment. And they're up on this mountaintop. And they get there and crazy stuff starts to happen, right? Jesus' face is shining and his clothes. And in the middle of that, and Peter's babbling and saying stuff, and whatever comes to mind. Don't we all, when we get nervous or excited, we all just start saying stuff, right? Sometimes we don't remember what we say, right? We're just excited. But Peter's saying stuff. But then a cloud comes, and what happens? In the middle of this moment, what happens? God speaks, doesn't he? God speaks into this moment. And he says, he doesn't give a 3-point sermon. It's not 20 minutes long. It's not even 15 minutes long. He just says a simple sentence. He says, this is my son, whom I'm pleased with, whom I love. Listen to him. That's pretty simple, doesn't it? Is there any part of that you didn't understand? This is my son. So he identifies Jesus as his son, that he loves, that he's pleased with, and instructs the disciples to listen to him. Very simple message, right? But what do you do with that? What do you do with that moment? Can you live in the moment? No, we can't live in the moment. You can live moments, but you can't live in them, right? Would you say that's true? Great things have happened to you, and they were moments, and you'll never forget them, but you can't live in them, can't you? Although you probably know people who try to live in the moment forever, right? They'll tell you the same story 2 times every time you see them, right? Remember that time? You know. But you can't live in the moments. So what do you do with moments? What do you do with those special moments when you have a baby? When things are really good? What do you do with those moments?
I store them in my heart.
There you go. Thank you, Bill. That's exactly right. You got to take that moment and learn from that moment. Embrace that moment. Fold it up, tuck it in there after you've cleaned out your closet, right? But you tuck it in there, you got space for it now, and you take that with you as you go forward in life. I've had a lot of great moments in my life, especially after I entered ministry. Crazy, you know, I had some growing to do, like, because we're all growing, we're always growing, and I'm still growing. I hope you're growing, because you stop growing, you start dying. But you know, things I had to learn. And me and God went through this journey, and some fantastic things happened to me. Things that made me go, what? You know, things that go, wow. I mean, I've shared some of them before with you. You know, I got called into the principal's office one day, and they said, you know, your tuition for your daughter has been paid for as long as she wants to go here. That was quite a lot. That's a lot of money. Then I got a check one day for $5,000 from an anonymous source. This is for your ministry. We want to remain anonymous. You know? And things like that continued to happen as I was coming into ministry. I mean, things that made me say, what? You know, you just shake your head like, but in all of it, I knew God's hand was in it. He may have worked through people, because often God does, right? In community. But I knew God's hand was in it. And he was showing me, don't worry, you can trust me. Don't worry, I got this. I can do crazy things, and you're not going to understand them. And they're going to be incomprehensible to you, but they're my things. And I'm just showing off. Right? And through that I learned. Like I said, I've learned to trust God. I've also learned to bless other people. Because somebody blessed me. You know. God used other people to bless me. So my part of that is when I take that, I fold that and put it in my pocket and take it forward and I didn't know somebody's need, then I reach out and I try to bless them. Right? Because that's the circle of life. That's the way that works, right? That whole thing of taking it forward. Right? But I think the key to that is for listening to what God has to say. In those special moments, whether they're good or they're bad, I think God gets our attention in those special moments. They almost demand that we're silent, don't they? Have you ever noticed that? In those really, like, earth-changing moments, you really don't have a lot of words to say, do you? You're not like Peter where you're babbling. You're more like James and John. You're just sitting there like, what? What's happening? Can you imagine being one of them up there when that stuff's going on? what would you have done? How many of you would have ran? How many would you say, I think I gotta go help Judas count the money. I'm gonna come back. You know, how many of us would have been like that? You know, because sometimes life's moments make us want to run, don't they? But no, they stayed and they what? They listened, and God had a simple message for them. And it was kind of telling. And I read out of Matthew, but this is the same account as in Mark. And the funny thing about the book of Mark is Mark's divided into the 16 chapters, divided in half almost. First half, Jesus is going north. In the second half of the book, starting with chapter 9, he starts to go towards the cross, go south, towards Jerusalem, towards the cross. Now the funny thing is that this is the beginning story in chapter 9. The Transfiguration is in chapter 9. And it starts pointing back towards the cross. So things are really getting serious, and he wants to make sure that the disciples are listening to what Jesus has to say. That Jesus has some important things to tell them, right? And he wants to make sure that they're listening. What do we do with those moments? Do we look for God's message in our special moments, in our mountaintop experiences? Do we look to see what God's doing? Or do we just accept them and move on? Well, I just won the lottery. That's good. That was me. You know, or yeah, I just got this extra. Look, somebody thought enough of me to send me a $5,000 check. Oh, that was great. I'm good. Wow, I must really be somebody. No, God's great. I'm just somebody. You know, we have to look to see where God's at work in our lives, because He's there every single day. You see, because what we need to realize is that God of the mountain is also the God of the valley, and every step in between. You see, He's there with you in the mountain, and you're reminded of that when you get to the valley. Because those things you're able to take off the mountaintop, those mountaintop experiences, those great joys, those things He's placed into your life that you hold on to, when you get to the valley and things get really tough, when you hit hard times, you can reach into your pocket and say, oh yeah, I remember He's got this. I remember now. Yeah, I'm just supposed to rely on God. I need to rely on God. And look to see where He's at work. Because He's always at work on your behalf. You know, a lot of times when me and Pam get into things seem stacked against us, or we're looking at a mess, we'll look at each other and go, man, I can't wait to see what God does with this. Because this is really going to be good. You know, and we look with that anticipation, but we're what? We're looking, right? And we're listening to see where God's taking us. So yeah, this isn't a good situation, but I know God's at work. And I'm trusting Him. And it may not turn out the way I want it to, but I know God's got a what? He's got a plan, right? Remember that song, that old song? Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. You remember that country song? Also, that's true. That's very true. Some of the things I prayed for early in life, I'm so glad I didn't get them now. I'm just being honest with you. I mean, I'm looking back over my life, I'm like, woo! I missed that one. That was good. You know, I thought I wanted that, but I really didn't. So, I mean, life has a way of playing out in front of you, and you get to see things if you take time to stop and listen, to see where God's at in things, right? But you have to listen. It's very important that you stop and listen, and you seek Him out, because you can't hear from Him if you're not listening for Him. You have to listen. And that's what God tells the disciples. He identifies Jesus as His Son, but then He tells them, He says what? Listen to Him. And that's a message for us as well. That we need to stop and take time and listen. There's a story about a young boy named Charlie who him and the rest of his teammates were looking forward to getting a real coach for their baseball team, and finally a real coach showed up. And he taught them how to throw and run bases and slide with the best of them, how to swing a bat, and everything they needed to know about baseball. And the first game came, and Charlie got up to bat. He looked good, you know, he had all the form, and he sat there. But then all the people behind him in the stand started yelling, "Swing, Charlie, swing, 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 Charlie, swing, swing, swing." Started yelling and screaming. He's getting distracted, and all keyed up, and the first pitch comes, and he swings, and the pitch is in the dirt, and he just strike one. Well, now he's really nervous. And he gets up there, and he's not quite as confident as he used to be. He's sitting there, and the second pitch is coming, and they're yelling, "Swing, Charlie, swing!" And he's just frozen time. Strike two. Third pitch was just like the second pitch. He couldn't even move. He was so frozen by all the people talking to him. And as he walked back to the dugout, shaking his head, one of his best friends was coming up to bat. And he stopped and he said, "Sometimes you just need to listen to the coach." And that's very true. That is very true. Sometimes we need to stop and just listen to the coach. You know, whether you're experiencing a mountaintop experience, or you're in the valley, or you're in between, we need to take time to listen to him, to see where he's working, where he's guiding us, where he's pointing us, what he has in store for us. Because it's not that God's not talking, it's that we're not listening most of the time. You know, I was explaining to the boys in prison last week that prayer is like a conversation. And you pick that word intentionally, conversation. Because it's not a talk. Because anybody can talk. But in a conversation, it requires not only that you talk, but that you what?
Listen.
That you listen. So often we approach our prayer time as a talk with God. In other words, I'm going to talk, God's going to listen, and I'm going to go walk away. But in fact, we need to be approaching it as a conversation. I'm going to talk, and then I'm going to be still, and I'm going to listen. Because he's got some important things to say to us. Important directions to point us. Places to lead us. Directions to give us. Jesus didn't wait. He was already giving them instructions as they were walking down the mountain, wasn't he? He had a lot to tell them. A lot to bring forward to us. But the most important thing he told us, and Charles brought this up this morning, was to what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength, right? And to love your neighbor and yourself. You know, if we just listen to those simple words, life would be so much easier. We would treat people so differently. We would treat people with more compassion and more forgiveness. That we would love people instead of hate people. That we would embrace people that are different instead of pushing them away. We would live our lives completely different, and we would have a life-changing moment in the moment. You can't live in the moment. You can only use the moment to learn from and to move forward. I think that's a fair statement. You know, there's a statement that goes something like, life isn't about the number of breaths you take, but the number of moments that take your breath away. Right? And I like to add to that. It's about what you do with those moments that take your breath away. How they influence you, how they shape you, how they move you forward. Because we can't stay on the mountaintop. We have to move down the mountain. We all would like to live on top of the mountain all the time. I would like to sit at my desk every day and get a $5,000 check every day. I would be very happy, right? But life doesn't happen that way, does it? No. It wouldn't be special. After about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of getting a check every day for $5,000, I'd probably get tired of it. But, it's another $5,000 check. It wouldn't be special if it happened all the time, would it? No. Those special moments are meant to teach us something. We need to embrace them. Disciples had a special moment. Moment not shared with any other human being. It was their moment. And they learned from it. The reason we know they learned from it is that because they listened to him and they passed that message on to us. And we receive it here today. Now you've received that message. What are you going to do with it? You need to fold it up, put it in your pocket, take it from here and use it. Use it as a guide, how you should live your life each and every day. And all God's people said, Amen.